She couldn't handle what the humans said, even her skin changed color. The diplomatic ship UNS Meridian drifted through the glowing mist of the Aurelia V system, its silver hull catching the light of 1,000 tiny suns. Inside, the air buzzed with nervous energy. Humanity was about to meet the Lumestri, a race of beings who didn't speak with words but with scent and light. For Evan Rook, a young communications officer barely 3 years out of training, this was his first real mission. He stood before a mirror in his small cabin, tugging at the collar of his uniform. His reflection looked back with wide, uncertain eyes. "Don't mess this up," he whispered to himself. Outside his door, boots clattered. Commander Halverson's sharp voice echoed through the corridor. "Rook, briefing room now!" When Evan entered, every senior officer turned to stare at him. The commander's stare was particularly sharp. "The Lumestri ambassador expects grace, not guesses," she said. "No improvisation. You speak when spoken to, nothing more. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am," Evan replied, though his stomach twisted into a knot. The Lumestri were humanity's best hope for joining the Stellar Concord, a vast interstellar alliance. Their technology could clean oceans, power cities, and heal worlds. But they valued culture and ceremony above all. A single wrong gesture could destroy years of negotiation. Hours later, the Meridian arrived in orbit over Aurelia V. The planet glimmered below like a jewel carved from mist and light. Giant floating gardens, each one a living structure of crystal and vine, drifted above its surface. From those gardens came the invitation to dine. The diplomatic crew descended in a shuttle, their hearts pounding. The Lumestri banquet hall was breathtaking. Walls shimmered with translucent colors and fragrant vapors curled through the air like music. The alien hosts stood waiting, tall, graceful figures whose skin glowed softly in shades of gold and blue. At the center stood Seren, the Lumestri royal mediator. Her form was slender, almost human, but her eyes held the calm of deep water. She wore a gown that shimmered like starlight. When she turned toward the human guests, the air changed, filled with a faint sweet aroma, the Lumestri form of greeting. Evan tried to recall his lessons, respond to their scent with mirrored tone, the guidebook had said. He hesitated. The translator chip could only sense part of the message, an invitation to share essence. It was a phrase open to interpretation. "Officer Rook," Commander Halverson murmured beside him. "You're on." Evan swallowed hard. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small perfume vial, a token gift he'd prepared after studying Lumestri customs. With one nervous motion, he pressed the nozzle and released a gentle mist of floral scent into the air. At once, every Lumestri froze. The glowing patterns on their skin flickered wildly, shock, confusion, even alarm. Serene's eyes widened. Her glow deepened to a brilliant crimson, the color of a vow. The air thickened with tension. Evan blinked, realizing something had gone terribly wrong. Did I just offend them?" he whispered. Commander Halverson's expression turned pale. "Rook, that scent means courtship proposal." The room erupted into murmurs of disbelief. Several Lumestri attendants whispered urgently. 2 hulking Tark warriors, reptilian guests from a nearby world, rose from their seats. Their armor gleamed like obsidian. One of them snarled in a deep rumble. The human made a vow. "Let him prove it!" Saren's voice, though calm, trembled slightly. "By our laws, the right of confluence has been invoked. It cannot be withdrawn." Evan felt his legs weaken. "What does that mean?" Serene's glow dimmed to a somber blue. "It means," she said quietly, "you have declared your intent to join with me, and must now face the ordeal of proof." Around them, the Tark warriors beat their fists on the table, their laughter booming. "Let the trial begin." Commander Halverson slammed her hand on the table. "This is a misunderstanding." But it was too late. The ritual flames lit across the walls. The Lumestri delegation stepped back as an ancient symbol blazed in the air, a spiral of gold and violet. Seren turned to Evan, her expression unreadable. "For better or worse, human," she said softly, "your words have bound us, and the universe is watching." The hall went silent. Only the low hum of alien music remained, echoing through the luminous chamber as Evan Rook realized he had just turned humanity's first diplomatic dinner into a galactic courtship ritual, and somewhere deep in space the consequences had already begun to stir. The next morning, The UNS Meridian floated in uneasy silence above Aurelia V. What had been a diplomatic visit was now a cultural emergency. Every news relay from the stellar Concord demanded answers. Had a human really proposed to the royal mediator of the Lumestri? Evan Rook sat in the observation deck staring at the planet below. Its shimmering reefs looked peaceful, but inside him was a storm. The phrase "rite of confluence" echoed in his mind like a warning bell. Commander Halverson entered, her uniform immaculate but her expression tired. "Congratulations, Rook," she said dryly. "You might have just married humanity to an alien empire." "I didn't mean—" "I know you didn't," she interrupted. "But the Lumestri do. Their council has called for your ordeal of proof. You'll be tested physically, mentally, and emotionally to prove your intent. If you fail, we lose every trade deal, every treaty." "If you succeed," she sighed. "I don't even know what that means." Evan rubbed his face. "And Seren?" "She's the one who invoked it," Halverson replied. "Apparently she's curious to see what kind of creature you are." Minutes later, Evan was escorted by 2 glowing Lumestri guards through crystal corridors into a massive hall open to the planet's upper atmosphere. There, Seren awaited him, calm, radiant, unreadable. Her eyes shifted in hue as she spoke, voice soft but firm. "The ordeal of proof is not about strength of body but harmony of mind and heart. The first trial will test your ability to perceive truth within chaos. Are you prepared?" "I wasn't exactly given a choice," Evan muttered, earning the faintest glimmer of amusement from her. The floor beneath them shimmered, transforming into an expanse of living crystal. Beams of light arced upward, forming dozens of glowing paths. Each led to a mirror-like gateway floating in the air. "Only one path leads forward," Seren explained. "The others reflect your own thoughts, your fears, your doubts. You must find the true way before the sun of Aurelia completes a rotation. 10 of your minutes." Evan took a step forward. The light pulsed beneath his boots, responding to his heartbeat. His reflection stared back from every surface, confused, anxious, uncertain. He closed his eyes and remembered his training. "When you can't read the words," his instructor had said, "listen for the rhythm." He breathed. The reflections around him whispered faint echoes of his own voice, taunting him with doubt. But beneath the noise he caught something, an almost musical pulse. Not random. A pattern. He followed the rhythm step by step, turning away from mirrors that sang offbeat. The hall grew warmer, brighter, until he found a single gateway glowing with steady light, perfectly in sync with his heartbeat. He reached out and the world dissolved. When his vision cleared, he stood on a floating platform high above the luminous city. The wind carried 1,000 alien scents, sweet, sharp, metallic. Seren stood at the edge, watching the horizon. "You found it," she said, her glow flickering softly. "Most fail at the first step. Perhaps humans are not as blind as we thought. Maybe we just pay attention when everything's on fire," Evan said, smiling despite himself. Seren tilted her head, studying him. "You are different, impulsive, reckless, yet honest. It is unsettling." Before he could answer, a deep rumble echoed from the clouds below. A dark shape emerged, massive ships with serrated hulls cutting through the mist. The Lumestri guards shouted in alarm. Seren's glow turned sharp white. "The Tark have come. They demand the second part of your ordeal, the trial of strength." Evan's stomach dropped. "Strength? As in fighting?" "Not with weapons," she said. "They value willpower, not death." From the lead Tark cruiser, a booming voice thundered across the sky. "The human made a vow before witnesses. Let him prove his worth." Seren turned to him. "If you refuse, they will see it as cowardice. The Alliance will see it as deceit. And I—" She paused, her expression softening. "I will be dishonored." Evan looked from her calm, glowing face to the looming warships. The entire galaxy seemed to be waiting. He straightened his uniform, forcing a grin. "Then I guess I'd better not embarrass my fiancée." For the first time, Seren actually laughed, a light, melodic sound that shimmered in the air. "Very well, human. The ordeal continues." As the Tark vessels opened their hangars and beams of light descended toward the platform, Evan felt the hum of energy rise through his body. He had stepped into something far larger than a misunderstanding. It wasn't just about proving himself anymore. The fate of 3 civilizations now hung on his next move. The clouds of Aurelia V swirled like molten glass beneath the hovering Tark cruiser, Lightning rippled along its dark metal hull, making the air crackle. Evan Rook stood on the platform beside Seren, wind tearing at his uniform. Somewhere deep inside, every instinct screamed that this was insane. The trial of strength wasn't a ceremony in some safe hall. It was a live test broadcast across half the galaxy. The Tark didn't believe in quiet diplomacy. They believed in spectacle. A voice boomed from the cruiser's speakers, low and guttural. "Human Rook! The right of confluence demands your mettle. Face the trial of the forge and show that your words have steel." A beam of orange light swept over Evan and Seren. The next instant, they were transported into a massive Tark arena, a ring suspended above a churning sea of plasma. Around them, thousands of Tark warriors roared, slamming fists against armor in rhythmic thunder. Evan swallowed hard. "Tell me this isn't a death match." Seren stood calmly beside him, her glow steady. "Not death," she said. "But humiliation is certain if you fail, and humiliation among the Tark is worse than death." Before he could reply, the arena gates clanged open. A massive Tark warrior stepped through, scales gleaming like black iron. 2 meters tall, eyes glowing with molten gold. The crowd chanted his name. Korvash. He carried no weapon, only a heavy chain coiled around one arm. Evan muttered under his breath. "Of course it's the size of a small truck," the announcer's voice echoed. "The rules are simple. No killing, no retreat. Victory comes by balance. Stand firm when all else falls." A low chime sounded. The floor beneath Evan shifted, transforming into a rotating disk of energy. Wind howled. The arena began to tilt, threatening to throw both combatants into the glowing abyss below. Korvash lunged first, moving impossibly fast for his size. Evan barely dodged as the chain cracked past his ear. The vibration shook his bones. He ducked, rolled, and narrowly avoided being tossed off the edge. "This is your idea of diplomacy?" he shouted. "Among the Tark," Seren called from the sidelines. "Strength means control, not domination, balance." Evan's mind raced. He remembered his training as a pilot, the endless drills in zero gravity, learning how to shift his weight, use momentum, and let the environment work with him. When Korvash swung again, Evan sidestepped and used the chain's pull to pivot around him. The Tark roared in surprise as the human spun low, hooking his leg behind Korvash's knee and pushing just enough to throw him off balance. The crowd gasped as the giant stumbled, but caught himself. His molten eyes narrowed in respect. "Human has rhythm," he growled. They circled each other again. The platform tilted sharply to one side, forcing both to fight for footing. Evan's muscles burned, but his instincts sharpened. Every tilt, every shift of gravity became a signal. When the next gust came, he moved with it, ducking under Korvash's swing and driving his shoulder into the warrior's chest. The impact made a deep, hollow boom. Both nearly went over the edge, but Evan planted his boots and leaned into the spin. The platform steadied. For a moment, they froze there, locked in place, neither overpowering the other. The arena pulsed with heat. Then Korvash laughed, deep and rumbling. He raised his arms high, signaling surrender. "Human stands when world moves," he declared. "Human earns respect." The crowd erupted into cheers. Massive fists pounded the air. The chant shifted, this time not the Tark's name, but Rook. "Rook, Rook!" Seren approached him, her luminous eyes glimmering with something new. Pride and perhaps faint amusement. "You didn't win by fighting," she said softly. "You won by understanding balance. That is the essence of the confluence," Evan exhaled, his hands trembling. "I'll take your word for it. I'm just glad he didn't eat me." Korvash clapped him on the shoulder, hard enough to nearly knock him down. "Human fights with mind. Tark honor that. You have strength beyond muscle." As the energy platform began to lower, Seren turned toward the distant skyline. Her glow dimmed to thoughtful silver. "You've passed the second phase, Evan Rook. But the final test will not come from me. Or from the Tark," Evan frowned. "Then who?" "The Sable conquered," she whispered. "They've entered our system." The crowd's cheers faded into alarm as distant explosions echoed across the upper atmosphere. Ships broke formation. Crimson light painted the horizon. Serene's voice trembled for the first time. "Your next trial, human, will be survival." And above them, the first Sable warship emerged from hyperspace like a living shadow, its engines screaming through the void. The skies of Aurelia Phi erupted in streaks of crimson fire. The elegant floating gardens that circled the planet trembled as explosions rippled across the upper atmosphere. For centuries, the Lumestri had known only peace, their cities built of living light, their diplomacy woven through scent and harmony. But now that harmony shattered. From orbit, the invading Sable Concord ships descended like blades cutting through silk. Sleek black vessels shimmered with distortion fields, each one armed with pulse cannons that turned the air into molten glass. Their purpose was simple: harvest the crystal cores of Aurelia Phi, the planet's living energy, and leave nothing behind. On the Meridian's command deck, alarms screamed. Commander Halverson gripped the rail. Shields at full. All civilian vessels to retreat orbit. She turned to Evan. This isn't just a local raid. They're targeting the Lumestri source energy, the heart of their civilization. Saran's holographic image flickered into view, her usually calm glow now frantic. The Sable Conquered devour what they cannot control, she said. If they reach the central prism reefs, Aurelia V will die. Halverson's tone hardened. And what exactly are we supposed to do? We're a diplomatic vessel, not a battleship. Saren looked directly at Evan. You have already passed the trial of strength. Now comes the trial of unity, not by our design but by fate's. You must help us bind the Tark and the Lumestri together, before the Sable destroy us all. Evan stared at her flickering form. Me? I'm a communications officer, not a general. Then speak, she said simply. Because only you can. Moments later, the bridge filled with 2 new transmissions. One from the Tark flagship, General Korvash growling through static, and another from the Lumestri Council, whose melodic tones quivered with fear. The 2 sides were already arguing, blaming each other for the Sable's arrival. Evan stepped forward. His voice was steady, though his heart thundered. Listen to me, both of you, he said. The Sable feed on confusion. They want us divided. You, Korvash, your people fight to protect strength. Saran, your people preserve harmony. But strength without harmony is chaos, and harmony without strength is silence. Together, you can survive. Apart, you'll be ashes. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Korvash's laughter rumbled through the speakers. Human speaks like warrior poet, he said. Tark will fight beside Lumestri. Saren nodded once. Then let the unity begin. The plan unfolded in seconds. The Lumestri's crystal gardens could refract energy, bending beams like mirrors. The Tark warships carried fusion cores capable of emitting gravitic pulses. If combined, those pulses could form a light web, a shield strong enough to redirect the Sable bombardment. But the frequencies were incompatible. Human technology would need to synchronize them. That task fell to Evan. The Meridian dropped through the atmosphere, flying low over glowing forests of glass. Evan worked the controls, his fingers trembling over the console. If this goes wrong, we'll fry half the hemisphere. Halverson gave him a look that could cut steel. Then don't let it go wrong. Saren appeared on the hollow screen beside him, her voice calm amid the chaos. Follow my signal. I will align the first crystal spire. Outside, the sky pulsed with color as Tark fusion waves struck the Lumestri gardens. The energy scattered into dazzling arcs, a storm of light refracting across clouds. Evan adjusted the ship's emitters, matching the rhythm of Saren's signal. His breath synced with her glowing patterns. Too high, she called. Adjusting frequency, he shouted back, sweat dripping from his temple. The Meridian's engines roared as beams of golden energy laced the sky, linking Tark cruisers to Lumestri spires. One by one, the arcs joined, forming a web of living light that stretched across the upper atmosphere. The first Sable salvo struck and bounced back. The redirected beams sliced through their own fleet, tearing holes in the invaders' formation. On the Meridian's bridge, cheers erupted. It's working, someone cried, but Evan didn't celebrate. His sensors flashed red. They're adapting. They're deploying phase missiles. They'll burrow through the web if we don't stabilize the lower lattice. Then we stabilize it. Halverson snapped. Serene's voice came through the static. To reach the lower lattice, someone must enter the storm layer. Our drones cannot survive it. A human vessel might. Evan didn't hesitate. Send me the coordinates. Within minutes, he and Saran were aboard a shuttle diving through the glowing maelstrom. The air shimmered with charged particles. Each droplet of vapor carried enough energy to melt steel. Evan's hands danced over the controls while Saran guided the sequence, her glow casting strange reflections across the cockpit. Your species is reckless, she said softly, As the hull groaned under the pressure, "Reckless keeps us alive," he replied. Outside, the storm swirled in impossible colors, sapphire, amber, violet, each one echoing with the pulse of alien life. They reached the central prism node, a colossal floating crystal beating like a heart. Evan rerouted the shuttle's power grid and synced it with Serin's signal. The storm surged brighter, the lattice closing, sealing the breach. The Sable missiles disintegrated against the shield, their debris burning out like dying stars. For a moment, all was still. Then Serin turned toward him. Her voice was quiet. "You've completed the trial of unity, Evan Rook. You bound our peoples together." He exhaled shakily, feeling the hum of the storm fade into silence. "Then maybe," he said, "I'm finally doing something right." Far above them, the Sable fleet began to retreat, folding back into the void, but not before one final transmission whispered through the static. "The Concord remembers." Serin's glow dimmed. "They will return," she murmured. "And when they do, the galaxy will need this alliance you've forged." Evan looked out the viewport at the shimmering web of light that spanned the sky, a bridge between three worlds, and realized this was only the beginning. The storm had ended, but the sky of Aurelia Fif still shimmered with the scars of battle. The once peaceful clouds now pulsed faintly with energy residue, and shards of broken Sable drones drifted like black snow. The light web held, fragile but alive. It crackled between the Lumestri Spire's Tark ships and the Meridian, humming with an uneasy rhythm that felt almost alive. Inside the Meridian's control chamber, exhaustion hung over the crew like fog. Displays flickered, wires smoked, and engineers shouted over the constant drone of failing systems. Evan Rook sat slumped in the pilot's chair, uniform streaked with soot and crystal dust, eyes fixed on the unstable readings. "Energy feedback rising," an officer reported. "The lattice is absorbing too much resonance from the prism reefs. If it overloads, it'll vaporize half the planet," Evan finished quietly. Commander Halverson's jaw clenched. "Options?" Serin's holographic form materialized beside them. Her glow was dimmer now, edges flickering. "The web is self-feeding," she said. "The more the reefs try to heal, the more energy they draw from the Tark reactors. It's a chain reaction, so how do we stop it?" Evan asked. Serin met his gaze, her luminous eyes soft. "By breaking the harmony you helped create." Silence filled the bridge. Halverson's brow furrowed. "You mean shut it down?" "I mean disconnect it entirely," Serin replied. "But the stabilizer core, the heart of the lattice, is anchored in the high prism, one of our oldest temples. It lies within the storm layer, still charged from battle. No ship can approach without disintegration shields." "Except ours," Evan said, already rising from his chair. Halverson glared. "Rook, don't even—" "Commander, I caused this bond," he interrupted. "I'll fix it. Besides, I know the pattern. We built it together." Serin nodded faintly. "He's right. And I must go with him. The prism only responds to a Lumestri signature." Halverson hesitated, then exhaled through her teeth. "Fine, but if this turns suicidal, you eject, you hear me?" Evan gave a small grin. "Yes, ma'am." No promises. Minutes later, the shuttle dove back into the shimmering upper atmosphere. Lightning licked across its hull, painting the cockpit in ghostly blues and greens. The storm layer was worse than before, wild, untamed energy surging through the clouds like veins of liquid fire. Serin stood beside him, her glow faint but steady. "You humans," she murmured, "you run toward the fire instead of away from it." He smiled tiredly. "Guess that's why we survived our own history." Through the viewport, the high prism appeared, an enormous crystal tower rising from the storm, its base surrounded by spinning shards. It looked like a cathedral forged from glass and lightning. As they neared, the ship's alarm screamed. Energy spikes flared, rocking the shuttle. Evan fought the controls. "We can't get closer. The current's locking us in." Serin pressed a hand to the console. Her skin shimmered, sending ripples of light through the ship. "Then we walk." Before he could protest, she disengaged the autopilot. The shuttle's side door hissed open, revealing the radiant chaos beyond. A narrow bridge of crystal extended from the entrance toward the prism's core. "Are you serious?" Evan shouted over the wind. Serin stepped out first, graceful even in the storm. "Always." Cursing under his breath, he followed. The bridge trembled beneath each step. Bolts of light snapped close enough to singe his sleeves. Ahead, the prism pulsed with unstable rhythm, each beat faster than the last. The stabilizer core is inside, Seren said. But it will reject both of us unless we attune it. Evan frowned. Attune it how? Through resonance, through trust. Before he could ask, she took his hands. Her palms were cool, almost electric. Light flowed from her into him, a wave of sensation that hit like a heartbeat shared between species. For a moment, his vision filled with alien memories, vast oceans of crystal, songs sung in color, and the scent of ozone mixed with flowers. He gasped. You're showing me your world, Serene's voice trembled. It is the only way. Match my rhythm and we can calm the storm. Together they stepped forward, palms still joined. The prism reacted instantly. Energy flared around them, weaving into spirals of white and gold. The hum of the lattice slowed, then steadied. Evan felt every vibration, every flicker, and mirrored it with his heartbeat. When their rhythm aligned, the chaos faded. The prism's glow softened. It's working, he whispered. But Seren's glow was fading fast. Her form flickered. You're overloading, Evan shouted. She smiled faintly. Harmony demands a price, Evan Rook. He gripped her hands tighter. No, we finish this together. The prism flared one last time and exploded in a wave of blinding light. When Evan awoke, he was lying on the shuttle floor. The storm was gone. Outside, the sky was clear for the first time in weeks, the web of light slowly fading into harmless threads. The planet lived. He turned and saw Seren lying motionless beside him. Her skin no longer glowed. Seren? He whispered. No answer. He reached out, touching her hand. It was still warm. Then faintly her chest rose. A pulse of light flickered beneath her skin, soft as dawn. Evan laughed shakily, tears stinging his eyes. You scared me. Her eyes fluttered open. You humans, she murmured weakly. Always think saving the universe is enough. Sometimes saving one person is harder. He helped her sit up, and together they looked out at the calm sky, the storm of glass finally at peace. But far beyond Aurelia V, in the cold dark of hyperspace, the shattered remains of the Sable fleet began to move, their fragments reassembled, glowing faintly with stolen light. And at their core, something vast and ancient whispered through static. The human and the Lumestri have united. The cycle begins again. The next trial, Evan realized, wasn't about survival anymore. It was about what they had become. 3 standard days had passed since the storm cleared. Aurelia Phi shimmered once more in quiet beauty, its skies a calm tapestry of teal and silver. The light web was gone, but faint trails still lingered across the upper atmosphere, remnants of the unity that had saved an entire world. From orbit, the UNS Meridian glided in silence. The ship was battered but alive. Its hull bore new scars, reminders that peace had a cost. Inside, engineers worked without rest, patching systems and recalibrating engines. But in the command chamber, a deeper unease grew. Commander Halverson stared at the holographic display, arms crossed. We're picking up new transmissions from the outer rim, she said. Encrypted, same frequency as the Sable fleet. Evan Rook stood beside her, his face pale under the cold blue light. I thought they retreated. They did, Halverson replied grimly. Now they're regrouping. And there's more. Some of their signals are human-coded. The words hung in the air like static. Before Evan could respond, the door hissed open. Serene entered, walking slowly but upright. Her glow had returned, faint but steady. It's true, she said softly. The Conquered was never just alien. It began as a coalition of scavengers and exiles, including humans from the early expansion era. Halverson frowned. That's impossible. The first colonies beyond Sol weren't even established until they vanished, Seren finished. We've always wondered what happened to them. Now we know. The Sable Concord is the echo of your own lost children. Evan's pulse quickened. You mean, they're us? In a way, Seren said. Twisted by time and isolation. They built themselves on conquest and survival, rejecting all who sought unity. They believe cooperation weakens the strong. Halverson slammed a hand on the console. So they're coming for us to finish what they started. Not just coming, Seren said, eyes distant. Listening. The bridge lights flickered. A chill crept through the room. Then the ship's speakers crackled alive with a voice, distorted, layered, metallic. We watched your harmony burn. We felt your storm fade. Now we will cleanse what remains. The weak have sung too long. Every console flared red. Power surged, then died. The Sable hacked the grid, an engineer shouted. Evan lunged for the manual controls. They're inside our systems. Suren's glow brightened. Not theirs, ours. They're using the resonance we created in the prism. The realization hit him like cold water. The light web, the unity network linking Lumestri, Tark, and human technology, was still active somewhere deep in the planet's core. The Sable were tracing its pulse like a beacon. They're going to reverse the lattice, Evan said. Turn it into a weapon. Halvorsen barked orders. Rook, get below decks. Cut the resonance link manually. Saren, guide him. They raced through the dim corridors past flickering lights and humming bulkheads. The Meridian trembled as outside. Tark escorts opened fire on approaching Sable scouts. Through a viewport, Evan caught glimpses of black ships slicing through the clouds like sharks in water. The Concord is too strong, Saren said. We cannot outgun them. Then we outthink them, Evan replied. They reached the lower core, an oval chamber alive with swirling holograms of light. The lattice network pulsed faintly, still bridging the three species systems. Here, Saren said, gesturing to a crystalline control pillar. This node feeds the resonance stream. If we overload it, the signal dies, but so does the connection between our worlds. Evan hesitated. You mean the Alliance? She nodded. Every ship, every trade link, every communication channel. It will erase everything we built. He stared at the console, his hands trembling. If we don't, the Sable will use it to erase everyone. Saren placed a glowing hand over his. Then we choose sacrifice over submission. He met her gaze. Together, then. They began the sequence. The core's light turned crimson. Energy arcs danced across the floor. The ship groaned as feedback surged through its frame. On the bridge, Halvorsen's voice crackled through comms. Rook, you've got incoming, 3 Sable drones inside the hull. Buy us time, Evan replied, fingers flying across the controls. The bulkhead doors burst open. Sable infiltrators, humanoid, their armor black and slick with pulsing veins of energy, slid into the chamber. Their movements were too fluid, too deliberate. One raised a blade of condensed light. Evan ducked. Saren reacted faster. Her glow erupted, forming a shimmering shield that repelled the first strike. The impact threw sparks and sent flashes into the air, the Lumestri equivalent of shouting. They know what we're doing, she cried. Then we finish before they stop us. Evan slammed the final command key. Override code Rook Sigma 9. The chamber exploded in light. For an instant, everything froze. The Sable soldiers, the hum of machinery, even sound itself. Then the lattice shattered into a rain of white sparks. When Evan opened his eyes, the infiltrators were gone, disintegrated into vapor. The hum of the resonance was silent. Saren knelt beside him, her body trembling. It's done, she whispered. The bond is broken. They cannot use it now. Evan looked at her, heart pounding. Then we stopped them. She shook her head slowly. No, Evan, we only delayed them. The Concord never stops, it adapts. Outside, the stars rippled. A massive Sable dreadnought emerged from hyperspace, dwarfing every other ship. Its hull bore the mark of an ancient symbol, half human, half machine. On the Meridian's bridge, Halvorsen's voice echoed over the comm. All hands, brace for contact. Evan turned to Saren. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever. Then we make our stand, she said. And as the shadow of the dreadnought swallowed the planet's light, the final phase of the trial of unity began, not a test of harmony, but of endurance. The Sable dreadnought blotted out half the stars above Aurelia V, its obsidian hull alive with crimson veins of power. Beneath its shadow, the surviving Tark and Lumestri ships formed a desperate defensive ring around the battered UNS Meridian. The air was thick with static and silence, the kind that comes just before history decides what kind of story it wants to tell. Evan Rook stood on the Meridian's bridge, staring at the holographic projection of the enemy ship. Its structure was colossal, too organized to be chaos, too alive to be a machine. The central core pulsed like a heart, each beat rippling across the void. Commander Halvorsen's voice was low, steady. That thing's building energy for a system-wide discharge. If it fires, it won't just destroy Aurelia V. It'll sterilize the whole orbit. Evan felt the weight of it settle over him. How long do we have? Minutes, she said. The crew moved like ghosts, no panic now, only grim acceptance. Then the comm crackled. A deep, familiar growl filled the room. "Human Rook," came General Korvash's voice, rough but proud. "The Tark stand with you. We bleed before we bow." Serene appeared beside him, her glow returning, pale but strong. "And the Lumestri will lend their light. The prism may be gone, but we still have song." Evan looked between them, warrior and diplomat, strength and harmony, and suddenly, he understood. "That's it," he whispered. "The prism wasn't the power, we were. The resonance came from connection itself." Halverson frowned. "You're saying we can rebuild the light web without the prism?" "Not rebuild," Evan said. "Rewrite. Use ourselves as the signal." Serene's eyes widened. "A living trisynchronization? Impossible." "Everything we've done so far was impossible," he replied. "Let's make that our brand." Korvash's laughter boomed over comms. "Ha, human thinks like Tark now. Madness with purpose." The plan took shape in seconds, madness wrapped in math. The Meridian's damaged emitters, the Tark fusion cores, and the Lumestri's scent harmonics could merge into a single pulse. A living resonance, not of machines, but of minds and willpower. If they synchronized it perfectly, it might short out the Sable's hive link. If they missed, the resulting feedback would vaporize them all. Halverson gave a short, bitter chuckle. "So, die quickly or die trying. Fine. Let's do it." Evan and Seren took position in the Meridian's core chamber, where the ship's last functioning emitter tower thrummed with energy. The air shimmered. Around them, Tark cruisers moved into formation, their reactors glowing like burning suns. From the planet below, the Lumestri began to sing. It wasn't a sound humans could truly hear. It came as light, scent, and vibration, a living hymn that filled the vacuum through resonance fields. The Tark joined with their war chants, rhythmic and thunderous. Evan felt it in his bones. He looked at Seren, who had closed her eyes, her glow synchronized with the melody. "What do I do?" he asked. "Don't think," she said softly. "Feel." He reached out, took her hand. The link formed instantly, memories bleeding together. Her first sunrise beneath the crystalline sea. His first flight above Earth's clouds. Her fear of darkness. His fear of failure. All merging, all dissolving. The Meridian systems came alive. The hull glowed faintly gold. On the outer decks, humans and Tark worked side by side, tuning frequencies, aligning trajectories. The bridge crew spoke in clipped phrases, guided more by intuition than instruction. "Synchronization at 70%, an officer shouted. "The Sable Dreadnought is charging weapons." Evan could feel the enemy's pulse now, a dark rhythm that throbbed across space, hungry and cold. He knew what it wanted, to erase connection, to silence difference, to prove unity was weakness. Not today. He turned to Seren. Now. Together they activated the resonance field. The world went white. From orbit, it looked like a sunrise exploding in all directions. The pulse radiated outward in rings of gold, green, and violet, the colors of 3 species. It struck the Sable Dreadnought dead center. For a heartbeat, the monster glowed brighter than a star, and then imploded silently, collapsing into itself like dust into nothing. The shockwave rippled through the fleet, disabling every Sable ship still in the system. Then it faded, leaving only silence. On the Meridian's bridge, sparks rained from dying consoles. Halvorsen coughed through the smoke. "Report!" Evan's voice came faintly over comms. "Still here, Commander." "And the alien?" Seren's voice weak but smiling. "Still glowing, I think." A cheer rose from the bridge. Outside, Tark ships flashed their victory lights and Lumestri gardens bloomed brighter than ever. For the first time, the 3 species sang the same note. Different, yet whole. Hours later, the Meridian floated peacefully over Aurelia V. The repairs had begun. The Alliance held. Evan stood in the observation deck with Seren beside him, watching the dawn rise over the crystal reefs. Her hand rested lightly against the glass, glowing faintly with reflected sunlight. "You realize," she said, "the bond we formed cannot be undone. The resonance still lives in us, I know," he said quietly. "Guess that makes us the first human Lumestri-Tark hybrid link in galactic history." She smiled. "History tends to begin with accidents," he laughed softly. "Yeah, one spray of perfume and look where we are. Outside, the light of the new day washed across the planet's surface, refracted through the crystal clouds. In the far distance, fragments of the destroyed dreadnought drifted, still glowing faintly with dark energy. From within, a spark flickered, then died, for now peace had come. But as the Lumestri proverb said, light is not the end of darkness, it is the promise to face it again. And for the first time, across 3 worlds, that promise belonged to all of them.